So you've launched your podcast. Congratulations. But now comes the real challenge, keeping your listeners engaged beyond the first few episodes. A lot of podcasters get excited about launching, but then struggle with listener drop off. If people tune in once and never come back, your podcast won't grow. So today I'm sharing how to keep your audience engaged, build loyal listeners, and make sure people come back episode after episode. Hey there, I'm Liz Chapman, and I help entrepreneurs like you launch and grow podcasts that captivate your audience and build your business. If you want to create a podcast that keeps listeners hooked, this video is for you. And before we dive in, Podcast Launch Simplified is officially open. If you're ready to launch your podcast the right way with a step-by-step system, click the link in the description to join today. All right, now let's jump into 5 powerful strategies to keep your listeners engaged long after your first episode. The first 60 seconds, and I would even say 30 seconds of your podcast are make or break. If you don't grab your audience's attention really fast, they're going to tune out before they even get to the good stuff. So here's how to create a strong opening hook. Start with a compelling question or statement. So for example, did you know that most new podcasters lose 80% of their listeners after episode 1? Or you could tease what's coming in the episode. So for example, in today's episode, I'm going to show you exactly how to keep listeners coming back for more. Use storytelling. Hook them with a relatable experience before diving into your topic. And then avoid long intros and excessive small talk. Get to your point quickly. A clear, engaging structure helps keep listeners interested from the start to the finish. So if your episodes feel scattered or confusing, people are going to tune out. So what is the best podcast episode format for engagement? You're going to have your hook, which is going to grab attention with a bold statement, question, or teaser. Then you're going to have your main content where you're going to deliver value in a clear, structured way. You're going to have a call to action for engagement midway through your episode. So ask listeners to follow, subscribe, or DM you a keyword to interact. And then you're going to have your outro. You're just going to recap your key points and give another strong call to action. Try to keep your episodes focused and value packed and don't ramble or go off topic. One of the best ways to keep listeners engaged is to actively involve them in your podcast. So here's some ways to increase listener interaction. Ask questions during your episode. So for example, what's the biggest challenge you're facing? DM me on Instagram and let me know. Create a custom hashtag for your podcast so listeners can tag their takeaways. Encourage audience participation. You can run polls, question and answer sessions, or listener shout outs. You can offer exclusive bonuses. So, for example, leave a review this week and I'll send you my free podcast growth checklist. And remember that engagement is a two-way street. So make sure your audience feels like they're part of your show and that you respond back. And if your listeners don't know what's coming next, they have no reason to return. So you can tease upcoming episodes and end every episode with a cliffhanger. So, for example, next week I'm revealing my top 3 podcast growth strategies. You don't want to miss it. So, kind of give a preview of the next episode, briefly introduce what's coming and why they should even care, and then encourage them to subscribe. So, for example, if you want to make sure you don't miss all these tips, hit the subscribe button now. When people know what to expect, they're more likely to stick around for more. Now, let's talk about building a community around your podcast because I think that's going to be really big for 2025. Podcasts that build a loyal community are the ones that last. If you can get your listeners to connect beyond the episodes, they're going to stay engaged long term. So, how are we going to build a podcast community? You can start a private Facebook group or a LinkedIn group for your listeners. You can host monthly live question and answer sessions to interact with your listeners in real time. You can give shout out to listeners who leave reviews or tag you in posts. Give listeners a name. For example, if your podcast is about business growth, call your audience growth leaders. When listeners feel like they belong, they keep coming back for more. All right, let's recap. If you want to keep your listeners engaged beyond the first episode, you need to hook them in the first 30 to 60 seconds to grab their attention. Use a structured format to keep your episodes engaging. Encourage listener interaction to build connection. Tease the next episode so people return. Create a community to turn listeners into loyal fans. And if you're ready to launch your podcast the right way, Podcast Launch Simplified is officially open. This program gives you a step-by-step roadmap to go from overwhelmed to launching a chart-topping podcast with confidence. Spots are limited, so if you're serious about launching, click the link in the description to join Podcast Launch Simplified today. I hope you like this video. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications for more podcasting tips every week, and I'll see you next week.